In the last section, we focused on interventions to use with the whole class and to regulate all students at once. In this section, we're going to focus on individual interventions and strategies to use to help students regulate themselves. Again, individual interventions are used to regulate an individual student rather than an entire group. We will focus on the 5 strategies listed on this screen: break or a space from others, reflection zone, I statements, binaural beats, and mindful breathing. Sometimes an individual student just needs a break or a space from other students or the classroom environment. In this case, you should allow the student to leave the room to maybe get a drink, take a walk down the hallway, or talk with another trusted adult. This is really useful when the student has indicated that they are not in the green, maybe they are going close to red and they're feeling themselves really start to lose it. They're frustrated, maybe they're just tired and they need a drink or they need to stretch and move around a bit. Be sure that when you're asking students to take this break, you're doing it in a way that's individual, quiet, and not calling them out in front of all the other students. Another way that an individual student can self-regulate is in a reflection zone. In this case, you would ask the student to go to another teacher's room for this reflection, or they could move to a quiet space in your own room if you have it set up for reflection. The student will complete the reflection zone form. On this form, it's going to ask them to identify what zone they're in and really reflect on how they're feeling. It will also ask them to reflect and identify how their feelings and their behavior might be affecting others. Typically, when a student is asked to go to a reflection zone, then this is because their outburst or their emotional dysregulation has caused a disruption in the classroom. Usually, if a student is really unfocused, this is also a good time to send them to a reflection zone. When helping an individual student regulate their emotions, it's really useful to use I statements. In this case, an I statement starts with the trigger, it gives the emotion, and the behavior. So for example, I noticed you were giving your answer and someone interrupted, so you're angry and you threw a pencil. By doing this, you're helping the student see the connection between their emotions and their behavior, and they're seeing that you have noticed it. You're giving them a platform to talk about how they feel and notice that others can see when they're upset and others can see how their emotions lead to their behaviors. This is really useful when a student was triggered by something that happened, something that you can identify for them and help them make that connection. Binaural beats are another great strategy for students to use to help self-regulate. These are basically sound waves that can reduce stress and anxiety, increase motivation, and increase focus and attention. It's very similar to meditation. There are several on YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, and basically all you have to do is provide students with the link or the playlist and some headphones and let them sit in a quiet place for about 5 minutes or longer if needed and let them just listen to the beats. This is really useful when a student is in the yellow zone because at this point, the student is not necessarily causing a disruption to the class, but they may just be at a point, also in the blue zone, they may just be at a point where they need to regulate themselves so that they are ready to learn. Not only can mindful breathing be used as a whole group intervention, but can also be used as an individual intervention. In this case, students would lead themselves in a mindful breathing exercise. So you would just need to provide the student with the strategies to use and give them a space to sit and do that. So there are several strategies similar to those that were used for the whole group strategies. Again, they can use the mindfulness breathing YouTube videos. They could do the freezing and melting activity. There's also breathing shapes that they can do individually. And then, of course, the nostril hold breathing. Here's an example of breathing shapes that the students could use. All the students would have to do is trace the shape on their screen or on their paper if you printed these out and follow the instructions about breathing, holding the breath, and then breathing out. These are also included in the mindfulness toolbox that's a part of your digital workbook. So again, all of these strategies and interventions can be really useful for each individual student to regulate their own emotions. Which interventions do you plan to use and teach your students to use? Be sure to fill out your digital workbook and continue reflecting on these interventions. Also, don't forget to check out the mindfulness toolbox and hopefully share it with your students as well.